Today, we're in the kitchen. Why? Because Christmas is right around the corner, and I'm going to show you how to make something that everybody's probably already made. You probably already know how, but I'm going to show you anyway. It's called, a lot of people call it monkey bread. I call this baboon bread. Why? Because baboons are like bigger and badder and meaner versions of monkey. And the reason I do that is because I'm using not just the freezer biscuits like most people use in the bag. I'm using this flaky layer grand biscuits. Now this is Pillsbury, and they do a good job, but they make them a generic brand too. So you cut these things up. I'm cutting them into 6 pieces because I like the pieces that end up being cooked a little bit smaller than the big chunks that quartering it would do. And this is the way you do it. It's just simple. Cut these things up. You have to work kind of fast because you don't want them to start, swelling up and getting bigger before you do what you want to do. So what we're going to do is once I get these cut up, I'm going to put them in a bag like this, gallon bag, along with a cup of white sugar and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and I'm also going to use a half a cup of white raisins. I like white raisins because they just look better than the dark ones. And also I'm using a half a cup of pecans, which I will chop up. You can use walnuts, but walnuts, good as they are in so many things, they're stronger than pecans. And yes, I said pecans. Why? Because I'm a Southerner. That's why we say it. And so it's a little bit milder than walnuts. Not quite so overpowering. So in goes sugar. Let's see, where's the cinnamon? Here it is. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. There's 1. There's 2. There's a nice taste. Now you can probably add some other things. We've got some pumpkin spice here and different things. If you like that kind of spicy stuff, maybe a tiny bit of nutmeg, maybe, suit your taste. And I'm going to put the raisins in there too. Some recipes call for doing that separately, but I like to do the raisins because that gets them kind of coated too. And then also start putting these things in here. I've used 2 cans of this. If you use the smaller, cans, you could use 3 cans, or you could use, is that me? Later, dear. Okay. So, it's supposed to be a smartphone. It should know I'm busy, right? Okay, put that in there. And what we're going to do, we're going to shake it all up so it gets kind of coated. We've got a tube pan here, which I will coat with a little bit of well, I'm going to use, what is it I use? I use this stuff, coconut oil. Works great. It's supposed to be healthy, so we're all about healthy around here. Okay, now I'm going to chop up these things. Not real fine. That ought to be good. If you don't have one of these things, you ought to get one. I use it for all kinds of stuff. When I make chili, works great on onions and that kind of thing. Okay, so get that, put that in there too. All the pecans. Close it up. In the meantime, you need to preheat your oven at 350 degrees. You just jiggle this all around so that it distributes the sugar and the cinnamon and everything all over the place, so it becomes evenly coated. And that includes the the nuts and the raisins and anything else you choose to put in there. See, I don't really go by recipes per se. You know, I've did this when we were kids, and I always remember. It's one of those things where you come close, it'll be okay. So if you use a little bit more sugar, a little bit less cinnamon, depends on how your taste is. But you can see these things are starting to get nicely coated with all this stuff. And in the meantime, I've got a stick of butter. Now I use Kerrygold because I just think it's the best tasting butter. But you can use anything. And then this is a cup of brown sugar that is kind of packed in, so you got a good combination of that. We'll put it over here on the stove and let that butter melt. We've got a wooden spoon here. Kids, behave. Doesn't that bring back memories? So we'll just let this melt, and it will make sort of a, well, you'll see, makes kind of a syrup. And that's what you'll pour that over your the biscuit pieces. Scorch. So we'll just let that sit there a little bit while I position very carefully in my greased mont pan. And let's see. I'll just get some of this out of here. This stuff is really good stuff. If you haven't used it, it's a nice sort of alternate to using lard, or even something like vegetable stuff, like Crisco or whatever, which we use, and it's fine. But this is good stuff. Okay, so you want to make that. You want to be fairly generous about that because you don't want any sticking. And okay, there we go. All right. This is melting nicely into a, as you can see, sort of a syrupy kind of stuff. See there? See the way it's going? Yeah, that's looking good. You can use a little bit more butter too. This is a stick of butter, which I think equates to about 1/2 cup. But you can never use too much butter. Okay, there we go. We'll just let that set for just a bit. In the meantime, we will very carefully and expeditiously position this in the bottom of our pan. As you can see, very methodically. Now these things are going to rise up a little bit, so it's going to make it's going to fill this thing up, and that's okay. Okay, so if you do that right, your nuts and your raisins and everything will be all nicely dispersed in there, all nicely covered. See, everything's coated with the sugar. Okay. Now, what we'll do is we will take this mixture here, and we'll make sure that that butter is good and mixed into the brown sugar. See what that looks like? Great, huh? Okay, and then we'll start pouring that over our mixture just like this. Okay. Now that'll seep down in there and everything will get all nice and gooey when it's cooking. I said you preheat your oven at 350 degrees, and I meant it, okay? 350 degrees, and we will let this cook in there for about 35 minutes. Doesn't take long. Basically like cooking biscuits, you know? So, we get all that out of there. And feel free later on when this cools to lick the pan, because it's butter and brown sugar, so it's better. Okay, here we go. That's what it should look like. Okay, now we're ready to put it in the oven. So I'll just come over here. We've got the oven right here preheating. Good, nothing was left in there. Set it right in there. And in about 35 minutes, we'll have the finished goods there, and then we'll let it cool for 10 or 15 minutes before you depan it onto a plate, and then you cut it up and you pour yourself a cup of coffee and just sit back and enjoy some of the tastiest stuff. You pull it off in pieces and eat it like that. It's delicious. I'm sure everybody is probably familiar with, well, like monkey bread, baboon bread here. I think you'll love it. Now, Christmas is almost upon us. So while you're enjoying that, I'm going to be enjoying that along with you. And I hope that you and your family have an absolutely marvelous Christmas, full of love and joy and all the things that this wonderful holiday, has to offer. So we'll come back in just a little bit, and I'll show you the power of modern technology in just a few minutes. That'll be ready. You'll see what it looks like, and then we'll enjoy together. I'll see you in just a minute. This is my favorite part. First of all, we'll turn the oven off because we don't need that anymore. Now I'd like to have a drum roll. Is there any? No drums in the house, huh? Okay, here we go. Okay, now this is a beauty, okay? Each one of those little pieces are nice and sweet and gooey, and down inside there, that stuff that we poured on there is just absolutely sinful. And what we'll do is we'll let this cool, and then you turn it up, and it's just a beautiful thing. And you can pull these pieces off. See, that's the way you do it. Each one of these pieces is about a bite, and it is absolutely wonderful. So, as pretty as it is, you ought to smell it. It is, Dominique's working the camera. Dominique, does it smell good?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Absolutely. So what we'll do is we'll let this cool for about, I think 15 or 20 minutes or so. You turn it over, it ought to release really nicely. And it'll not only be attractive, but it will be so good. And this is something you can set out during your holiday, when you have folks over, you have your kids over and your family over, friends and so forth, and you can pour them a cup of coffee or even a glass of wine or something like that. Pull some of these pieces off. It is so good. So it's a great way to make and keep friends. All right. Well, that's it for today. Hey, we'll be back in just a little bit, and we'll talk about the most wonderful holiday of the year, Christmas. Till then, bye-bye. Okay, everybody, we're back. We're back for the grand reveal. Okay, as I just told you, you need to let it cool for about 15 or 20 minutes. That gives it a chance to sort of separate and cool off and do its thing. And now I have taken a plate and I put the plate on it and then turned it over like this. So it's actually sitting on a plate, and it should release if you greased your pan up right and everything and let it sit long enough, and it ought to come out there pretty smooth. So you just jiggle it a little bit. Hopefully this will work. If it doesn't, we can edit it. Okay. Ah, beautiful. Okay, that's what it looks like. Now you can see all these little pieces like that. You just pull those pieces out and pull it apart, and it's all gooey and it's all glazy, looking, and it'll be just sweet and good, and it's just an absolutely wonderful and quick and easy thing to put together. And you can adjust the recipe to, suit. You can use walnuts, or you can put cherries in it, or just whatever you want to do. And it's just absolutely wonderful stuff. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pour myself a cup of coffee, and I'm going to enjoy the fruits of my labor, along with Dominique and with
Crystal.
with Crystal and the rest of the family. So anyway, this is a wonderful thing you can do this time of year. You can actually decorate it too. You can put sprinkles on it and put the little greenery and stuff like that around it as you serve it, and it's just absolutely wonderful. So I urge you to just take a few minutes, put that stuff together, saw how easy it was, and you can have something just like this, and I guarantee you, you will be including me in your prayers if you actually make this stuff, because it is so good. This, my friends, is Baboon bread. All right. Okay. I'll talk to you again soon, because Christmas is around the corner and we're going to celebrate together. Till then, bye-bye.